This is what begins to shift the moment you finally stop pleasing others. Carl Jung, the moment you stop trying to be everything to everyone, you finally begin to become everything to yourself. There exists within each of us a profound moment of awakening, a sacred threshold where the soul finally says enough to the endless dance of pleasing others. Carl Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the journey toward becoming who you truly are, not who the world demands you to be. For too long you have carried the weight of others' expectations like stones in your pockets, each one heavier than the last. You have molded yourself into shapes that fit their comfort zones, painted yourself in colors that matched their preferences, spoken words that echoed their beliefs rather than your own truth. Jung understood this deeply. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Yet how many lifetimes do we spend becoming who we are not? How many years pass in the shadow of our authentic self while we dance to melodies composed by others' fears and desires?" The people-pleasing persona is not born from love. It is born from a wound so deep that we have forgotten it exists. It whispers that we are not enough as we are, that our worthiness depends on the approval of others, that love must be earned through sacrifice of self. But this is the great deception, the lie that keeps us imprisoned in cages we have built with our own hands. But something is stirring within you now. Can you feel it? That restless energy, that quiet rebellion of the soul. Jung called this the emergence of the self, with a capital S, the archetypal core of who you truly are, rising from beneath layers of conditioning and compromise. This awakening often comes disguised as crisis. Perhaps you find yourself exhausted by relationships where you give everything and receive crumbs. Maybe you notice how your own dreams have been relegated to whispers while you amplify others' voices. Or perhaps you simply wake up one morning and realize that the person staring back from the mirror is a stranger wearing your face. Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. Jung reminds us, this looking inward is not selfish, it is sacred. It is the first act of true courage, the moment when you choose yourself not over others, but alongside them. When you finally stop pleasing others, something magical begins to unfold. The energy that was once scattered across 1,000 different directions starts to gather, like rivers converging into a powerful stream. You begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that were given away in exchange for acceptance. First, you notice the silence. Where once there was the constant chatter of, "What will they think?" there is now space. Sacred, beautiful space where your own voice can finally be heard. In this silence, you discover that your opinions have substance, your feelings have validity, your dreams have wings. The relationships around you begin to shift too. Some people, uncomfortable with your newfound authenticity, may pull away. Let them. Jung taught us that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Their discomfort with your growth reveals their own fear of authenticity. Their departure makes room for souls who celebrate your truth, rather than demand your compliance. As you stop pleasing others, you must also face what Jung called the shadow, those parts of yourself you have rejected, suppressed, or denied. The anger you were taught was unacceptable, the ambition you were told was selfish, the needs you were convinced were too much. This integration is not comfortable. It requires you to embrace the full spectrum of your humanity, to love yourself not despite your flaws, but because of your wholeness. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious, Jung observed. Your shadow contains not only your rejected pain, but also your disowned power. When you stop trying to be perfect for others, you discover that your imperfections are not bugs in your programming. They are features. They are the cracks where your light shines through, the vulnerabilities that make you human, the struggles that give you wisdom. Something beautiful happens in your relationships when you stop performing for approval. You begin to attract people who love you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. These connections have a different quality. They are rooted in truth rather than transaction, in mutual respect rather than one-sided sacrifice. You learn to say no without guilt, and yes with genuine enthusiasm. You discover that boundaries are not walls that keep love out, but bridges that allow healthy love to flow. Your relationships become gardens where both souls can grow, rather than stages where one performs while the other judges. Jung spoke of this as the meeting of authentic selves. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When you show up as yourself, you give others permission to do the same. Your authenticity becomes a gift to the world. The energy you once spent managing others' emotions returns to you like a tide. You realize how much power you had given away. The power to define your worth, to choose your path, to honor your truth. This reclamation is not about becoming selfish. It is about becoming self-possessed. You begin to trust your inner compass, that deep knowing that was always there, but was drowned out by the noise of external validation. Your decisions start to align with your values rather than others' expectations. Your life begins to feel like it belongs to you. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, Jung wrote. But in this terror lies transformation. As you accept yourself, your light and your shadow, your strengths and your struggles, you discover an unshakable foundation that no external rejection can destroy. What begins as a psychological shift soon reveals itself as a spiritual awakening. You realize that your people-pleasing was not just about human relationships. It was about your relationship with the divine within you. You were seeking in others what could only be found in the sacred self. Jung understood this connection between psychology and spirituality. He saw that true healing required not just the integration of the psyche, but the recognition of the soul. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. As you stop pleasing others, you begin to please the God within you, that spark of divinity that has been waiting patiently for your attention. You start to honor the sacred contract you made with your soul before you took on this human form, the agreement to live authentically and love fully. Your transformation does not happen in isolation. Like a stone dropped in still water, your authenticity creates ripples that touch lives you may never know. Your courage to be yourself gives others permission to do the same. Your refusal to live a lie challenges others to examine their own truths. Children who witness your authentic living learn that they don't have to sacrifice themselves for love. Friends who see your boundaries learn that they can set their own. Strangers who encounter your genuine presence remember what it feels like to be real. Jung believed in the collective unconscious, the shared psychic space where all human experiences connect. Your individual healing contributes to the healing of the whole. Your personal transformation becomes a gift to humanity. This path is not without its difficulties. There will be moments when the old patterns call you back, when the familiar prison of people-pleasing seems safer than the unknown territory of authenticity. The ego will resist this transformation, preferring the devil it knows to the angel it doesn't. You may face rejection from those who were comfortable with your compliance. Family members might struggle with your newfound boundaries. Friends might question your changes. Society might label your self-care as selfishness, but Jung reminds us, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. The discomfort you feel is not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's evidence that you're on the right one. Growth always involves growing pains. What you're experiencing is nothing short of a death and rebirth. The person you were, the people-pleaser, the shapeshifter, the one who lived for others' approval, that person is dying, and in that death, space is created for your true self to be born. This is the hero's journey that Jung mapped in the collective unconscious. Every myth, every story of transformation follows this pattern. The old self must die for the new self to emerge. You are living your own mythic journey, writing your own story of resurrection. I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become, Jung declared. In choosing authenticity over approval, you are choosing to become who you were always meant to be. You are choosing to honor the sacred contract of your soul. As this transformation deepens, you enter what Jung called the integration phase. The warring parts of yourself, the part that wants to please and the part that demands authenticity, begin to find harmony. You learn that you can be kind without being compliant, loving without being sacrificial. You discover that true compassion includes self-compassion, that genuine service to others must include service to yourself. You realize that the most loving thing you can do for the world is to become fully yourself, because the world needs what only you can offer. This integration brings a deep peace, a sense of coming home to yourself. The constant tension of living out of alignment with your truth begins to ease. You breathe deeper, sleep better, smile more genuinely. Jung introduced us to the archetype of the wounded healer, the one who transforms their own pain into wisdom that can heal others. Your journey from people-pleasing to authenticity follows this pattern. The wounds that drove you to seek approval at any cost become the source of your deepest wisdom. You understand now what others cannot yet see, that their approval cannot fill the void that only self-love can heal. You recognize the signs of someone trapped in the people-pleasing prison because you have been there. Your healed wounds become lanterns that light the way for others. The wound is the place where the light enters you, Rumi wrote, and Jung would have agreed. Your psychological wounds, once integrated, become your spiritual gifts. Your journey, from fragmentation to wholeness, becomes a map others can follow. As you continue on this path, you notice how different your relationships have become. Gone are the exhausting dynamics of one-sided giving. In their place are connections based on mutual respect, authentic communication, and healthy interdependence. You attract people who appreciate your honesty rather than fear it. You find yourself in conversations that nourish your soul rather than drain it. You discover that love is not something you must earn through performance. It is something you can receive simply by being yourself. These new relationships mirror back to you the truth of who you are. They become sacred spaces where both souls can grow, where vulnerability is welcomed, where authenticity is celebrated. Jung called this the transcendent function, the healing that happens when two authentic beings meet. One of the most beautiful shifts that occurs when you stop pleasing others is the renaissance of your creativity. The energy that was once spent managing others' emotions becomes available for self-expression. The voice that was silenced by the need for approval begins to sing its unique song. You remember dreams you had abandoned, talents you had buried, parts of yourself you had forgotten. The artist, the writer, the dancer, the dreamer, all the aspects of yourself that were deemed impractical or selfish, they begin to stir back to life. Jung believed that creativity was not a luxury, but a necessity for psychological health. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The creative mind plays with the objects it loves. This journey from pleasing others to honoring yourself is ultimately a spiritual maturation. You begin to understand that your relationship with others is a reflection of your relationship with the divine. As you learn to love yourself unconditionally, you begin to experience the unconditional love of the universe. You realize that you were never separate from the source of love. You had simply forgotten your connection to it. The approval you sought from others was a misdirected search for the divine approval that was always yours. The acceptance you craved was a shadow of the cosmic acceptance that has never wavered. Jung wrote, "God enters by a private door into every individual. That private door is your authentic self. When you stop pleasing others and start honoring your truth, you open that door. You allow the divine to enter your life not as a distant concept, but as a living presence. Perhaps one of the greatest freedoms that comes with this transformation is the courage to be disliked. You realize that not everyone will appreciate your authenticity, and that's not only okay, it's necessary. Universal approval was never the goal. Universal authenticity is. You understand now that those who cannot love the real you were never truly loving you at all. They were loving their projection of who they wanted you to be. Their rejection of your authentic self is not a loss, it's a liberation. It frees you from relationships built on false foundations. Jung observed, "The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. You refuse to add to this tragedy. You choose to live your life fully, even if it means disappointing those who preferred your shadow to your light." What emerges from this process is what Jung called the inner marriage, the union of all aspects of yourself into a coherent whole. The masculine and feminine within you find balance. The light and shadow integrate into wholeness. The human and divine aspects of your nature dance together in harmony. This inner marriage is the true goal of individuation. It's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming whole. It's not about having no conflicts, it's about containing your conflicts within a larger framework of self-acceptance. You become both the lover and the beloved, the teacher and the student, the healer and the patient. You discover that the relationship you were seeking outside yourself has been available inside yourself all along. As you continue to evolve, you realize that your authenticity serves something larger than yourself. By refusing to live a lie, you serve truth. By choosing wholeness over fragmentation, you serve healing. By modeling authenticity, you serve others' potential for the same. Your life becomes a living prayer, a demonstration of what's possible when someone chooses courage over comfort, truth over approval, authenticity over acceptance. You become what Jung called a beacon of individuation, someone whose very presence reminds others of their own potential for wholeness. This is not about perfection. It's about direction. It's not about having arrived. It's about being on the path. Every day you choose authenticity over approval. You cast a vote for a more genuine world. The shift that begins when you stop pleasing others is not a destination, but a direction. It's not something you achieve once and for all. It's something you choose again and again, moment by moment, day by day. Each situation presents you with the choice: will you be true to yourself or will you perform for others? Sometimes you will choose authenticity with ease. Other times you will catch yourself falling back into old patterns and gently redirect. This is not failure. This is the human journey. Jung reminds us that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. This becoming is a lifelong process, not a weekend workshop. Be patient with yourself as you navigate this transformation. The conditioning of a lifetime does not disappear overnight. The neural pathways of people-pleasing were carved deep over many years. New pathways of authenticity take time to establish. As you continue on this path, the ripple effects of your transformation continue to expand. Your children learn from your example that they don't have to sacrifice themselves for love. Your friends witness your authenticity and remember their own suppressed truths. Strangers are touched by your genuine presence and walk away slightly more willing to be themselves. You realize that your personal healing is not just personal, it's transpersonal. In healing your own wounds around approval and authenticity, you contribute to the healing of the collective wound. In refusing to live a lie, you make it easier for others to live their truth. Jung believed that the individual's journey toward wholeness served the evolution of consciousness itself. Your willingness to be authentically yourself is not just a personal choice, it's a contribution to the awakening of humanity. Through this journey, you develop a deep wisdom about human nature, relationships, and the spiritual path. You understand the difference between love and neediness, between boundaries and walls, between authenticity and selfishness. This wisdom cannot be learned from books. It can only be earned through experience. You become someone others naturally turn to for guidance, not because you preach, but because you embody. Your presence itself becomes healing because it reminds others of their own potential for wholeness. You don't have to advertise your transformation. It radiates from you naturally. Jung wrote, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. You have discovered your own recipe for living, and in doing so, you give others permission to discover theirs." One aspect of this journey that must be acknowledged is what Jung called sacred loneliness. As you become more authentic, you may find yourself feeling alone at times, not because you lack relationships, but because fewer people understand the depth of your transformation. This loneliness is not a problem to be solved, but a sacred space to be honored. It's in this solitude that you commune with your soul, that you hear the whispers of your deepest wisdom, that you connect with the divine within. This aloneness is not empty, it's full of presence. You learn to be comfortable with your own company, to enjoy the richness of your inner world, to find fulfillment in your relationship with yourself. This is not isolation, it's integration. You are not alone. You are all one. As your transformation matures, you enter what Jung called the generative phase, the time when your primary focus shifts from your own healing to contributing to the healing of others. Your wounds have become wisdom, your struggles have become strength, your journey has become a gift. You may find yourself naturally mentoring others who are beginning their own journey, from people-pleasing to authenticity. You become a living example of what's possible when someone chooses courage over comfort. Your very existence becomes an invitation for others to live more authentically. This is not about becoming a teacher or guru. It's about becoming fully yourself and allowing that fullness to overflow naturally into service. Jung understood that the greatest service we can offer is to become who we truly are. What you discover as this journey deepens is that you are not becoming someone new. You are returning to who you always were beneath the layers of conditioning and compromise. The authentic self you are uncovering was always there, waiting patiently for your return. This is what Jung meant by the eternal return, the recognition that the goal of individuation is not to create something new, but to recover something eternal. You are remembering yourself, coming home to yourself, returning to the truth that was never actually lost. The person you are becoming is the person you were before the world told you who to be. The voice you are finding is the voice that was silenced but never destroyed. The power you are reclaiming was always yours. You had simply forgotten how to access it. And so, dear soul, this is what begins to shift the moment you finally stop. Pleasing others, everything. Your relationships transform from performance to presence. Your energy returns from scattered to centered. Your life evolves from reaction to creation. Your existence shifts from survival to thriving. You discover that the love you were seeking outside yourself was always available inside yourself. The approval you craved from others pales in comparison to the approval of your own soul. The acceptance you fought for in the world becomes unnecessary when you accept yourself completely. This is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of your real life. Every day you choose authenticity over approval, you write another page in your own story of transformation. Every moment you honor your truth instead of others' expectations, you contribute to the healing of the world. Jung's final gift to us was this understanding. The most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? The myth you are living now is the myth of return. The return to wholeness, the return to authenticity, the return to love. Your soul has been waiting for this moment your entire life. The moment when you finally choose yourself. The moment when you finally come home. The moment when you finally begin to live the life you were born to live. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Gustav Jung, Ifo. This reflection spoke to your soul. Subscribe. You are not alone. The journey is just beginning.